Hey guys, Bianca Zamora here, your favorite credit coach, and today we are going to talk about the difference between CreditKarma and Experian, and essentially that means we're talking about the differences between your Vantage scores and your FICO scores. So today we're going to just discuss why there is a difference between the two websites and the two scoring models, as well as what you can do to, of course, make your credit score better on each of these scoring models, and hopefully this will help you, gain a better understanding. As always, please like and share this video and go ahead and link with me using any of the links below. Thank you so much for joining me today. We'll go ahead and get right into it. So first, we're going to go ahead and talk about FICO. FICO is a scoring model that was created by Fair Isaac Company, which I would say over 90% of the lenders are using right now to make a decision as far as what is your credit score. This scoring model is something that you will find on Experian. So if you have an Experian membership and you log in, you're going to be given a FICO 8 credit score. You can also get your Experian credit report, right? That's usually included in the free membership. Now, if you upgrade your membership, you can also obtain your TransUnion and your Equifax credit reports along with your TransUnion and Equifax FICO scores. And again, these are going to be the FICO 8 credit scores. Now there's many different versions of credit scores out there, so even within the FICO scoring system. So I will create a second training video on essentially what are all the different versions of the FICO score and essentially what banks or lenders are using which ones, and that will be in a separate video. So on Experian, again, they're going to be giving you a FICO score. So as you can see from this chart here, in a FICO score, it's broken up into 5 different main components. So you have 35% being your payment history, 30% being your debt to credit ratio or your amounts owed. 15% is the length of credit history, which is really the average length of credit history. 10% is going to be new credit, and then 10% is going to be types of credit used. So continuing to break down the scoring model, you're going to see that your payment history can account for up to 192.50 points. Now the average credit score will range between 300 and 850, and so you have that 550 points that your credit score can be divided up by. So you just take the 550 and you multiply it by 35%, and you should get 192.50. So that's how we came up with those numbers. Essentially, your payment history is a record of everything that you've paid on time as far as anything that's reported to the credit bureau and everything that you haven't paid on time, right? So the more positive things that you have listed in this category, the more of these points you can obtain. The fewer items that you've paid on time, obviously the lower this component is going to be. But as you can see, it is the biggest factor in your overall credit score. So if you're trying to improve your credit, that's the number one thing you have to do, is improve your payment history. The second biggest component is your amounts owed. Okay, so this is the amounts that you owe on your accounts, and this is across all accounts, revolving and installment, as well as collections, versus the total amount of credit you have available. So for example, if you have 2 credit cards, each one has $1,000 credit limit, your total available is $2,000, and let's say you're carrying a $500 balance on just one of those accounts, then that would be a $500 to $2,000 ratio, and that would end up being 25%. If you are trying to improve your credit score, you also need to take a look at the amount of debt that you owe versus the total amount of credit that you have available. If you make this ratio better, you will tend to see an improvement in your FICO score as well. The third biggest component is your length of credit history, and this is an average, okay? So this is why sometimes when you open an account, you might see your credit score tick down a little bit, because when you add a new account to your credit report, you're going to reduce your average length of credit history. And so how this is basically calculated is, let's say say you have an account that you've had for 5 years, right? So that would be 60 months. Let's say you have a second account that you've had for the same amount of time, 5 years, that's another 60 months, so that's 120 months altogether. You divide it by your 2 accounts, and so your average length of credit history is going to be 5 years, right? But let's say you get a new account into this mix. Let's say you have a new account that you just opened. Instead of having 120 months divided by 2 accounts, you actually have to divide that by 3. So then your average length of credit history goes down to 40 months, or approximately 3.33 years. And so this is why sometimes your scores will go down a little bit when you're starting to add new accounts. Now it's still typically recommended to open new accounts every so often, because you need that to be able to increase the number of accounts reporting positive payment history each month, and also to increase the amount of available credit that you have on your report. 10%, is new credit. So these are like hard inquiries. This is where this factor comes in, and this is about 55 points. So yes, inquiries can impact your credit score. And if you have a whole lot of them, you're going to be losing out on up to 55 points of your credit score. The last component is the types of credit that are used. So this can factor in different types of installment accounts, such as mortgage loans, student loans, personal loans, auto loans, also the different types of revolving credit accounts, which could be regular unsecured credit cards, secured credit cards, retail cards, charge cards, all different types of credit, revolving credit. You can have, lines of credit too. So if you have like a HELOC, that's also considered like a revolving line of credit, since, your balance can actually fluctuate and your payments do fluctuate as well. So, yeah, this is basically the breakdown of a FICO score. And again, there are different versions and different ways that this, overall score can be manipulated, especially if you're going from lender to lender or bank to bank. They still may have a different scoring model that they are using, but it's more than likely going to be a FICO brand. Okay, and again, this is something that you're going to see on an Experian credit report. Now let's switch over to the Vantage score. So the Vantage score, as you can see, is made up of more than 5 components. So as you can see, there's about 6 components that make up a Vantage score, and so you're going to have a different credit score based on this model. So you can take, for example, your TransUnion credit score that you will get from your Experian credit monitoring service, your upgraded Experian credit monitoring service, and you can compare that with your TransUnion Vantage score through CreditKarma, and you're going to have different numbers. Okay, so same bureau, which is TransUnion, same day, right? But different scoring models. So you're going to have Vantage versus FICO. So again, on CreditKarma, you're getting your Vantage credit score. This scoring model does also go from 300 to 850. So you are still competing for those same 550 points, but they are broken down differently. So let's talk about that. As you can see, the biggest component, again, with a Vantage score is 40%, which is your payment history. So as you can see from FICO, payment history is only 35%. But over here on Vantage, it's 40%. So they actually will hit you harder if you have a missed payment, but they will also give you more credit if you're paying things on time. Okay. The second biggest component is your age and type of credit. So again, this is your average length of credit history, which is up to 115.5 points, right? And also the types of credit. So this is where they're actually combining the factors here. So they're combining the length of credit history, which is 15%, and that other 10%. So this on these two factors on FICO is 25% of your credit score, whereas on your Vantage score, it makes up 21%, these two factors, okay? The second or the third biggest factor is your credit utilization. So this is talking about your debt to credit ratio. And so on this particular scoring model, you can gain up to 20% or 110 points, whereas in FICO, you are fighting for 30% of your credit score. So this is why if you pay down your balances on your FICO score, you may see a greater improvement in your FICO score than if you are just looking at Credit Karma. So they're not going to give you as many points for that. Okay. Now, the funny part is they also include balances, right? So this talks about the total amount of recently reported balances. So really credit utilization and balances actually is going to end up kind of, being factored twice in a way, because your credit utilization is also part of your balances. So it's kind of, they separate it, but it's, almost very similar at least, right? So you have 31% really being your balances and credit utilization. So this is kind of, different from the FICO scoring model, because on the FICO scoring model, your amounts owed, that's all they're considering is that 30%. So on Credit Karma, you're going to see that that's a little bit more, about 31%. And then your recent credit is about 5% of your credit score. So this is like card inquiries. That's going to make up, up to 27 points. And then your available credit. So available credit is going to talk about how much do you have, available as far as your credit limits. So again, they're kind of breaking up the credit utilization, the balances, and the available credit into 3 separate categories, even though they're all very, closely related. But you're looking at about 34% of your credit score is based on how you're utilizing your credit balances. So that's actually a little bit more than FICO. FICO, they're only being considered by 30%. So that's also why if you charge more on your credit cards, you're going to see that your score is going to go down faster on your Vantage credit score. Okay, so I hope that this was insightful as far as, breaking down the different scoring models. As you can see, the number one factor is always going to be your payment history. How are you paying your accounts? If you have late payments, collections, charge-offs, if it's listed on your credit report, whether it's paid or unpaid, it's going to affect your payment history. And so you have to work on getting those things removed. Obviously, our company can help you with that. So there's a link to schedule a free consultation with me in the description. The second biggest factor is your debt, right? Your debt to credit ratio. So how much debt do you have versus how much available credit do you have? This is going to be the second biggest component. And so if you work on paying down your open credit card balances, or work on getting more active, positive credit lines with, higher credit limits, you're going to see that your credit score will more than likely increase. But again, payment history is so important. If you have any questions, please feel free to message me and I will respond. And again, I look forward to helping you. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out. Thanks so much. Have a great day.